you can see the course cars making their way around the track. This is round 6, 17th to the 20th of July. Round 7 is in the Ardennes region of Belgium, Spa-Francorchamps. At the end of September. And then the round 8 concludes our 2025 season at Mugello, which also forms, of course, the Finale Mondiale event, which is always massive, a huge, huge event. 56 degrees is the track temperature, air temperature is 32 degrees, and the wind has dropped from 3 kilometers per hour to 2 kilometers per hour right now. I mean, it is... just a little breath, if you will, to take the heat away from the harmless high cloud that you can see, which adds to the temperature cover that we have here in Barcelona. Cars taking up their grid positions then. Felix Herziger and Gilles Renmans are on the front row of the grid because that's the way they... will line up. The best of the AM drivers, Hendrik Viol, ahead of Marco Zanassi and Michael Verhagen. Now, the big news coming out of our lineup for the grid, and forgive me if I sounded just a bit disjointed there, was just checking out this, that Jasin Ferati, the Emil Ferrari racing driver, there's been some technicality, and he's going to be starting from the back of the pack. So he's got an awful lot of work to do right from the back of the pack, which means Felix Herziger and Gilles Renman have the front row to themselves. So Jasin Ferati then going from the back of the pack. That is the news that we can bring you. We're going to take a look, though, first of all, at the Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli Am race from yesterday, because race 1 here in Barcelona for these drivers was something of a good one. So as we were standing by for the race to get underway, the heat was going to be telling, that was for sure. Heat haze rose off the tarmac as the lights went out and we went racing. Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli Am style. David Gosner almost into the back. In fact, he did make contact with Jasin Ferati. And that's why David Gosner would pick up a drive-through penalty for that. But Felix Herziger all the way around the outside of Jasin Ferati, and everyone else behind, well, it was all over the place for many of the drivers, and it was a real disaster for the likes of Dylan Medler and Vincenzo Scarpetta, who would find themselves, as they argued over their places, ending up in the gravel trap. And we rode on board with Hendrik Viol, and there you could see that was the Dylan Medler, Vincenzo Scarpetta incident, which brought out the safety car for a very long time. Nobuhiro Imada and Michael Verhagen were having a brilliant battle, and it was a great overtake from Nobuhiro Imada as David Gosner took the drive-through penalty that I was talking about. Now, these two were fighting over P3. It was Quinn Wiedlisbach and Gilles Renmans. Now, Quinn Wiedlisbach loses the back end of the car, and unfortunately, that would take both the drivers out. I mean, it was hard fighting between the two of them. As you can see, the switchback there and the... onto the curbs they would go, and they were all being chased by Hendrik Viol. But that was where Quinn Wiedlisbach just lost the back end of the car. Gilles Renman had got absolutely nowhere to go. And it was a real disappointment for Franco Girolami, who was on for a podium, and then a deflating tyre at the back, as you could see, meant that his podium aspirations had gone away. Felix Herziger win for Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli, and Hendrik Viol would win for Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli Am. As he rounded the final turn, we ran his onboard camera as he saw the checkered flag unfurl. Ferrari Challenge, Pirelli, and Pirelli Am. So those were the highlights for race 1 yesterday. I'm sure there are going to be plenty of highlights to come from race 2, including the fact that this driver is going to have to try and cut his way through a pack of 23 cars. Like the proverbial hot knife through butter, as opposed to the other way around. Hot butter is not going to help you with a knife, Nico.
No, I'm sure. But, mixing metaphors. But it's hot enough down there on the track, and that will be a part. Tire preservation is paramount. But Jasin Ferati can ill afford to wait around, but he really has to be sharp and decisive early on. Marcus Zasi, terrible day yesterday, much better in qualifying today.
Yes, he's going from P2. He is one of the Pirelli AM drivers. Now, the Pirelli drivers have a red strip across the top of the windscreen. Our Pirelli AM drivers, like this man, Hendrik Viol, have a white strip across the top of the windscreen. So you can feel and hear the air blower trying to keep Hendrik cool ahead of the start of this 30-minute plus 1 lap race. He qualified pole position for the Pirelli AM drivers. Marco Zanassi then, who is in the championship as well with him, is going from P2. Meantime, joining us on the air yesterday was Lilou Vadou. Let's hear from her.
Let's go. Lilou, I want to discover with you the strength of this car.
Honestly, it's always special to drive a car like that. It's a special car, really, really sportive, and the feeling with this car, it's like a race car. And honestly, it's amazing car with a lot of power and everything perfect for do amazing lap on track and won the best award of the world.
Lilou, you are the first female Ferrari driver. What represents for you?
For sure, it's always special to be the first one. I am super happy to be this one. But honestly, I just want to continue to mark the history with a good victory. And I hope it will be a really good career with Ferrari. And we'll continue to mark all the motorsport world.
We are doing a Ferrari challenge weekend in Barcelona, and I know that you make a race advisor, and both you are a driver for the hot laps with Ferrari clients. So I want to discover with you your feeling and what type of experience is that?
It's always nice to share a good moment with other drivers, with family Ferrari. Honestly, it's something special. It's only in Ferrari Challenge you can discover another part of motorsport. I mean, the mistake you do normally or everything like that is special because you have another point of view and you can learn a lot from this.
We are just arrived in the paddock, so thank you so much.
Thank you, it was a pleasure, and it's always nice to be behind the wheel of the 296 GTB. Grazie mille.
There is the grid set. Stand by, the Circuit de Catalunya here in Barcelona. There it is. It was actually opened back in 2019. 1991, not 2019. 4.6 kilometers, 14 turns, 6 left, 8 right. Of course, famed for hosting the Spanish Grand Prix and many other race events, and indeed the Ferrari Challenge on a number of occasions before now. We've been delighted to come here to Barcelona and the Circuit de Catalunya. Let's get this race underway. Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli AM drivers in Barcelona in the sunshine, all set for 30 minutes plus 1 lap of hot rock action to come from Ferrari Challenge as the Richard Mille safety car leaves the grid right now. The cars are away on their formation lap. We will bring you the grid from back to front. And bear in mind that Jasin Ferati is actually going from the back of the pack. Start due to a technical infringement. He is starting from the back of the grid. So cars will weave from side to side that despite the high ambient temperatures still need to generate some temperature into those tires. And there you can see them weaving and using the brakes and the heat from the brakes dissipating through the rims onto the tires as the Richard Mille safety car leads them away then on their formation lap. Felix Herziger going from P1 now for Pirelli, and for Pirelli AM it will be Hendrik Viol. Right at the back of the pack, Jasin Ferati, P24. Armin Arifpour is alongside him. Then it's Martin Havas and Vincenzo Scarpetta, a Pirelli Am and Pirelli driver together there with David Acabazzi and Otto Blank going from P20 and P19. Rafael Duran and Danilo Del Favre are on the 9th row of the grid, and then to the 8th row where we find Andrew Morrow, who has Max Mugelli, Pirelli driver for company. Herbert Guys and Quinn Wiedler's back. It's the same Pirelli Am and Pirelli driver together on that row of the grid. Nobuhiro Imada was a star in the race yesterday. And there is Hanno Laskowski and David Gosner going from P10 and P9. Franco Giro Lamy goes from P8, Michael Verhagen from P7. Then it's Marco Zanazzi and Dylan Medler, both drivers hoping to right the wrongs of yesterday today. Björn Grossman with a good quali. He has Hendrik Viol for company. And then it is Gilles Renmans and Felix Herziger going from P2 and P1. I remind you, the Pirelli drivers with the red strip across the top of the windscreen, the Am drivers with the white strip across the top of the windscreen. At various momentarily points during the race, we'll hear from our German colleague alongside me, Nico Spalek, who's keeping an eye on all the data and all the information for me. Looks like Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli Am race is going to be a good one this afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the fact that we have Pirelli drivers effectively all the way between the Pirelli Am drivers, including Vincenzo Scarpetta and Jasin Ferati, fairly to the back of the pack. We expect them to move up early and often, and we'll keep an eye on that.
Thank you so much. Right, we ride on board here with Hanno Laskowski. Something of an entertainer driver, that's for sure, in car number 85. There is the safety car into shot right now. So Felix Herziger and Gilles Renmans, both capable of taking this P1 spot right at the start of the race. We ride on board with Hendrik Viol. I love this onboard shot from the Scuderia Prague driver Hendrik Viol. He is going from P3 in the grid overall, but it is P1 within class. Irrespective of the classes, the drivers line up how they qualify. And that means then that we have this wonderful mix of Pirelli and Pirelli Am drivers together. Right, we throw the lighting gantry to the top of the screen for you so that you can see the lights go out. The safety car has already peeled off into the pit lane. It's the responsibility now of Felix Herziger and Gilles Renmans to control the pace of this rolling start as the lights are about to go out. Now, let's go racing. Great start from Hendrik Viol. He can almost pitch himself between the two Pirelli drivers who are heading down towards turn number 1. Look at Michael Verhagen go as well, and Dylan Medler also into turn number 1. Then Dylan Medler with a great start. He's alongside Hendrik Viol. And right now, drivers having to take that runoff area. Nico will explain in a moment that they are allowed to do that, particularly on the opening lap, if it means you're going to avoid a collision. There have been 1 or 2 little panel rubs, but all of a sudden it's altogether different because Gilles Renmans is leading from Felix Herziger, and lots going on elsewhere as well. Gilles Renmans then with Felix Herziger, then it is Hendrik Viol. And you can see Björn Grossman trying to move up the order. So too is Marco Zanassi. Hendrik Viol steadfast in P3. Björn Grossman, well, he's got Dylan Medler just ahead of him. David Gosner, I think, has gone ahead of Marco Zanassi right now. So David Gosner, who showed really, really well in the race yesterday. So the car's just beginning to settle down after a few turns. And it is Gilles Renmans from Felix Herziger, Hendrik Viol, Vincenzo Scarpetta dropping way, way down the order. And already Jasin Ferati has made up something like 5 places, and we've not even completed 1 lap yet. So bear in mind, he's having to do that from the very, very back of the pack. So Gilles Renmans already trying to build up something of a margin between himself and Felix Herziger. Then it is Hendrik Viol, then Dylan Medler and Björn Grossman. So that's the way it looks, as for the first time of asking, we can put a race lap in the book for race 2 of Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli Am. Keep your eyes on the graphics on the left-hand side of the screen, which update with the positions that each driver is holding at the moment. I remind you, red means it's a Pirelli driver, white means it's a Pirelli Am driver. The incident in turns 1 and 2 is under investigation for any overtakes that happened by going off the track. Now, Nico, can you explain, are you allowed to use that runoff area or not through turns 1 and 2?
Well, it is a little bit of a tricky question. Yes, you are allowed to avoid a collision. You are allowed to go effectively on the pit exit, but you have to follow it all the way through. You're not allowed to cut across the painted lines and rejoin the track early, because that would avoid the final kink, which takes a lot of time and therefore compensates for any advantage you may have gained. But race control will obviously have a look, and there is some flexibility if they feel, well, you actually, you just kept your foot in and ignored the fact that there was track space available to you. It might not be that clean cut.
Okay, you can see data being analysed and looked at inside the garages here. Quinn Wietlisbach, unfortunately, dropping way down the order as well. Something has happened to the driver from Fry Racing. And it is Gilles Renman leading from Felix Herziger. Then it is Hendrik Viol who's leading Dylan Medler and Björn Grossman. Someone gets out on the grass there, and I have a feeling that was Rafael Duran. And we've got a safety car. So safety car is being called for. Saw that come up on the screen straight away. And is this the reason why? Yes, it is the reason why. And whose car is that? Is it? It looks to me like that could be the Quinn Wietlisbach car. Yeah,
the number 22, yes, definitely. As you said, we saw him dropping down the timing screen, but a replay of that.
This is presumably the reason why. Oh no, it's he made contact with the barriers, and that spun him around as well. So that means that safety car is called for, and that means all the hard work that Gilles Renman had done ahead and putting a gap on Felix Herziger will count as 0 now. In fact, all the gaps will be nullified, Nico. Let's take a look at a replay of the race start here. So, as cars will head down to turn number 1, 2 or 3 of the rows get into 3 or 4 abreast. And this is where I don't get it. Where I just feel that, it would be very easy to use that to your advantage, that runoff area. But race control can look at it. I don't want to cast or bring any judgment.
Yeah, definitely, and they certainly will. And they look at car data. They will look at all the different camera angles. Björn Grossman with a subpar start, certainly by his standards. He really got overtaken by quite a few cars, and the fact that he salvaged into P5 is quite remarkable.
That was Quinn Wietlisbach. You could see from being on board here, we're not on board with Quinn Wietlisbach, but just at the beginning of that onboard shot, you can see Quinn Wietlisbach putting himself on the inside of 2 or 3 cars and making contact. I wonder if that meant the car was mishandling then, and that was perhaps just before he found himself in the barriers. So it's Gilles Renman and Felix Herziger. The safety car comes in towards the end of this lap. So we can go back to racing. A really short safety car intervention. What that just basically does, it means that everyone gets bunched up together again. All of the cars, and there are still 23 of the 24 strong grid that will be out there together. So is this an opportunity for Felix Herziger to get by Gilles Renman? So, opportunity, of course, for Björn Grossman and Dylan Medler to try and get themselves ahead of Hendrik Viol and take the race to their in-class battlers, which they would like to be on terms with.
For sure, and Jasin Ferati made up a few positions, but everybody being bunched back up certainly means that the gap to the front is a little bit smaller than it would be otherwise.
There you can see inside the garages everything being looked at. As we get ready to go again, safety car has come in. Let's go racing. Great restart from Gilles Renman. And he's ahead of Felix Herziger. Look at Dylan Medler on a march here, trying to get to the inside of Hendrik Viol, and Björn Grossman is virtually welded to the back of Dylan Medler as they head in towards turn number 1. And Dylan Medler and Björn Grossman. Björn trying to go around the outside here. The outside becomes the inside for the next turn if he can make this stick, but he cannot make that stick. David Gosner is right up his trumpet as well. A Pirelli AM driver who's pushing both of them. So Dylan Medler, of course, superstar from North America, races here in Europe as well. And Gosner, look, all over the back of both of them. David Gosner then a Pirelli AM driver, but he's trying to keep himself ahead of Marco Zanassi. Marco Zanassi, who had a torrid time of it yesterday, hoping for a better race today. Grossman and Medler side by side once again. And there is no quarter being given or taken from either of these drivers. Björn Grossman, of course, who's done a heck of a lot of Ferrari Challenge Europe racing. And there is no doubting his racing pedigree or ability, no question about that. Overtaking, though, here in Barcelona is difficult. It is a technical circuit.
And behind him, Franco Girolami has just gone past Michael Verhagen, which for the moment at least splits the couple.
Right, that is a position, forgive me interrupting you, he had to give that position back. Gilles Renman was adjudged to have made an overtake by going off the track right at the start of the race, and therefore had to give that P1 position back to Felix Herziger. He has done that now. So, this is the order. It's Felix Herziger ahead of Gilles Renman. So Gilles has got to overtake all over again, but what he's got to do is do the overtake on the tarmac between the white lines. And now Felix Herziger has got his nose in front. Already he's gapped Gilles Renman significantly. So I apologize having to cut across you and interrupt you, but that happened just as you were talking.
Yeah, and there is Franco Girolami diving again to the inside, now having to defend from Michael Verhagen, who we just overtaken before. So that splits the Zanazzi-Verhagen couple, and Verhagen really, really wants to get back on terms with Marco Zanazzi. Doesn't care about Girolami, just cares about having a clear line of sight to Marco Zanazzi.
Very fair point, well made. So Herziger now leading from Gilles Renman. Hendrik Viol and Felix Herziger both having set the fastest laps. That's an additional point. If it stays that way, you get an additional point for the fastest lap in the race. Felix Herziger then. Inico Reporter Corsa Ram driver is P1 by 1.375 seconds. And this is where Gilles Renman's team, Francorchamps Motors Brussels, said you're going to have to give this position back to Felix Herziger. And he did that. Now this is Jasin Ferati, who knows he's got a lot of cars to overtake, and as he got by Max Mugelli, I don't think Max necessarily knew that he was coming there, but Jasin Ferati is up to P13 as Marco Zanazzi is suffering then with Franco Girolami right behind him. Marco Zanazzi then, who, as you pointed out earlier on, wants to get on terms with both David Gosler and Hendrik Viol. At the moment, having to defend from the hard-charging number 72 car from Radici Automobili and Zanazzi Racing. Herziger from Renman's 1.882, proving that Felix Herziger has got the pace in the car, that's for sure. And great drive from Jasin Ferati, who's continuing to overtake by almost repainting the pit wall as he's up against, I think that is Angelo Fontana. Well, Jasin Ferati was taken to the inside, and as I say, he was scooping the dust up from the inside of the pit lane wall. Here's Nobuhiro Imada. Nobuhiro Imada had a brilliant race yesterday and entertained us so much, but Jasin Ferati on an absolute mission here. He is up to P12, and next in his target sights is going to be the AM driver, and that's Andrew Morrow. We're on board with Hanno Laskowski, the Emil Frey racing driver. And Hanno Laskowski, he is chasing down Angelo Fontana now, and that was the very car Jasin Ferati made way, and Jasin Ferati up the road now, and as I say, he's on the back of Andrew Morrow as he tries very, very hard here just to get as far up the order as he possibly can and bank as many points as he can, because bear in mind, in the Trofeo Pirelli Championship, Felix Herziger is doing a very good job here, and if he can maximize his points haul, then it'll change the way it looks in terms of the Drivers' Championship. The yellow flag at turn 10 and 11. Oh, and there's 2 or 3 cars involved in that. And one or two of them, or one of them certainly, is in the gravel trap. Let's see what happened here. Diving to the inside. Oh, and wow.
That's Max Mugelli, Vincenzo Scarpetta, and
David Acabazzi, was it? No, it wasn't David Acabazzi.
Rafael Duran, I believe.
Yeah, it could be Rafael Duran. Well, unless those cars have been able to... Here's Jasin Ferati on Andrew Morrow. Now, I think Andrew Morrow was very sensible there and just let Jasin Ferati go, because it's a non-class battle. There's nothing to be gained for Andrew Morrow at that point. May as just well let him go through. So just waiting to see if there are any consequences of that Max Mugelli car, whether that is stuck in the gravel now. We remain with a localized yellow at the moment at turns 10 and 11. Doubtless we'll get another replay of that in due course, but the yellow flag remains currently as they're looking at that. No, well, the Max Mugelli car is out, and that is back in the pit lane, and there is Vincenzo Scarpetta with his rather reshaped front end limping his way back to the pit lane. So it might be that we can get away with this without any intervention other than a localized yellow. So the yellow flag gets rescinded, and that means we are back racing the full lap with Felix Herziger, who's now 1.612 to the good. Now, the incident involving cars 93 and 27 is under investigation, so that is Vincenzo Scarpetta, Rafael Duran and Max Mugelli, and you can see rather reshaped Rafael Duran front end there, Nico, and I'm amazed, and I'll be amazed if that car does not receive what we call the meatball flag to say that there is some bodywork issue. We will see.
Bodywork issue is a nice way of putting it. There is Hendrik Viola, leader in the AMS, chased by Dylan Mandler. Quite some hectic conversations going on. That's the Vincenzo Scarpetta car, yes indeed, and he certainly feels like the team should get going, I believe, and get the car back out there. He can still bank points from this. Felix Herziger, he's leading the gap 1.8 seconds as near as makes no difference. And Jasin Ferati, his closest competitor in the championship, is up to P10. However, he's also picked up 2 track limit infractions, so much that he needs to get up the order as quickly as possible. He has to keep it on the grey stuff, otherwise all that work could be undone in race control.
Fair point, Felix Herziger. Then continuing on his way. Leader in the AMS is Hendrik Viol. David Gerstner and Marco Sanazzi remain P2 and P3 in the Trofeo Pirelli AM race with about 15.5 minutes plus 1 lap still to go as Andrew Morrow is chasing down the car of Nobuhiro Imada. There's Hanno Laskowski, who in turn is on Andrew Morrow right now. So a 3-way fight going on, and make that a 4-way, 5-way fight now with all these AM drivers. Nobuhiro Imada ahead of Andrew Morrow, Hanno Laskowski, Angelo Fontana, Danilo Del Fabro, Herbert Guys, David Akabadze. Pretty much any one of those could be in this and pick up P5 in the race in the AM drivers. Let's ride on board right now with Hanno Laskowski, who is chasing Andrew Morrow, who in turn is tracing Nobuhiro Imada. Got a double yellow on the start-finish straight, I believe, right now. You can see the yellow flag indicator at the top of your, and that's the reason why, and it is because of that. I think that's the Rafael Duran car, which I said might receive the meatball flag for bodywork issues. Well, he does manage to get the car going again, I think, which hopefully will mean that yellow flag gets lifted. Sure enough, it does. So back on board with Hanno Laskowski, the Emil Frey racing driver, we go right now as he's chasing down Andrew Morrow. Andrew Morrow is a difficult driver to overtake, and actually I don't think Hanno Laskowski is as close to Andrew Morrow as he needs to be. I think Morrow is much closer to Nobuhiro Imada. It's the fight that's going on for the class battle for P5, and there you can see Michael Verhagen in the number 33 car going through on the Franco Girolami Radici Automobili Sanassi racing car, and now he goes and repeats the feat, as it were. So there, Michael Verhagen, who I have to say has not had the same sort of success here in Barcelona as he did in Valencia. I think that's fair to say, and actually on the back of them now is going to be Jasin Ferati.
Yeah, absolutely. That could change the dynamic for the leader, top 5 positions in the AMS if Jasin Ferati is continuing his trajectory through that pack. If someone like Michael Verhagen can just attach himself and try to maximize his opportunity when Jasin Ferati builds a gap, that could be a strategy, but it's very difficult for anybody to stick with Jasin Ferati. And, well, but it's something that the likes of Michael Verhagen will surely try.
Angelo Fontana is on his final warning for track limits. Bear that in mind as he's trying to chase Hanno Laskowski right now. That's the very shot that we saw there. Leading this AM pack is Nobuhiro Imada from Andrew Morrow. Through the Fahrer speed camera we go right now, and let's ride on board with Andrew Morrow and Nobuhiro Imada. As I say, was really, really impressive yesterday. Is that Rafael Duran out of the car? Let's see in that split shot. Having retired the car, which I think was exactly the right thing to do, probably. So, we stay on board with Andrew Morrow. Nobuhiro Imada has got the sights of Jasin Ferati ahead. Jasin Ferati's got some distance to make up before he can get on terms quite with Michael Verhagen. We're with Andrew Morrow right now, as we swap our onboard shots and able to bring you lots and lots of those across the course of this race with the Ferrari Challenge. The race being led by Felix Herziger, who has a margin of comfort of 2.2 seconds over Gilles Renmans. Car number 85 is under investigation. That's Hanno Laskowski, who we were on board with just a few moments ago for overtaking by going off the track at turn 10. How dare you, Hanno? You know that's going to get picked up, and you know that that's not going to work. However, it's only an investigation at the moment, so to say it did happen. Right on board with the car right now, giving us a vantage point from being inside the 296 Challenge car. David Gostner has set the fastest lap for the Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers. And we're riding on board with Hanno Laskowski. Hanno Laskowski continuing to see the back end of Andrew Morrow more than he can see anything else. Andrew Morrow at the same time, all he can see is the back end of Nobuhiro Imada. Nobuhiro Imada not only racing here in Europe, but also in Japan as well. And Morrow is really, really close to him, but he's got to pick his moment to try and find a way by here. And Nobuhiro, who's a very, very experienced driver, tends not to make mistakes. And that will be what Andrew is perhaps hoping for, is a little mistake to come from Nobuhiro Imada, but that hasn't happened yet. Here is Hendrik Viol, who is leading for the AM drivers. He has Dylan Medler just ahead of him. And Dylan Medler, another driver, another intercontinental driver, if you will, because he races not only here in Europe, but also in North America. And a fine driver is Dylan Medler. Big bloke, you know, he's about 8 foot tall, is Dylan. Really, really nice guy. And we can see the front end of his car through the onboard camera of Hendrik Viol, looking back at Dylan Medler now. We reach the final third of the race, if you will, plus a lap, 10 minutes remaining, plus 1 lap in this Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli AM race.
Yeah, and Jasin Ferati is still stuck behind Michael Verhagen. He's come close, but he hasn't gotten past, at least not yet by our count. So no dynamic change there. And Hendrik Viol, let's just say, as we look into the Scuderia Prague garage, still fairly safe in his position, because all he has chasing right behind him is 2 Pirelli drivers.
Yes, and those Pirelli drivers act, if you like, as a cushion between him and David Gostner and Marco Sanazzi.
Yeah, now, just as I said, Jasin Ferati has gotten past Michael Verhagen and is now on the back of Franco Girolami. So going to be interesting how that develops. It's for P5 and P6 in Pirelli. But obviously the other part of that is all the M drivers around them, and what will that do to their battle with 9 minutes and 10 seconds remaining.
Hendrik Viol could, of course, just let Dylan Medler go here. However, he ain't going to do that, because he likes the protection that he is offered by having Dylan Medler right behind him. You will see on screen in just a moment that car number 85, Hanno Laskowski, who is running in the car number 85 in P8 at the moment for the P7, I beg your pardon, for the AM drivers, will pick up a 5-second time penalty. The reason for that is because he overtook by going off the track. I'm not sure we saw that overtake, but if we did, apologies. If we didn't, well, race control certainly saw it, and they saw it because he went off the track to get it done. So he's going to pick up a 5-second time penalty. That will put him further down the order, that's for sure, because he's got an awful lot of AM drivers that are running in and around him, so that will cost him very dearly in terms of places. Hendrik Viol we're on board with right now as Dylan Medler tries to climb up the hill and then get the switch back here to the inside. And actually on this occasion, I reckon Dylan Medler might be able to make this happen. Hendrik Viol has got a little bit more momentum though, and is able to close the door on Dylan Medler. So great fight going on between these two very, very talented drivers, but they are in different categories. One, Hendrik Viol, is a Pirelli Am driver. The other is a Pirelli driver, and just looked like there was a moment of strife. Fano Laskovski, which caused a yellow flag, as Jasin Ferati is trying to do two at once here. Two Pirelli Am drivers as Jasin Ferati dives to the inside, and I think he has done it. Marco Zanassi trying to come back here. Well, that was a bold and audacious move from Jasin Ferati, but it worked, and Jasin Ferati is up the road and now all trying to come all the way around the outside. This is absolutely extraordinary stuff. If Michael Verhagen had made that work, that would have been the move of the century, let alone the day. He's certainly tried, but Jasin Ferati has found by running really, really close to that pit wall, he can get the inside line, and all the dust being kicked up is almost like a smoke screen to every other driver, as David Gosner is about to go through on Björn Grossman. Racing room is left by Grossman, who will try and get a switchback now on David Gosner. Again, they're not in the same category, so it matters not much, other than Jasin Ferati is going to be on the backside of Björn Grossman in just a few meters' time.
Yeah, but Jasin Ferati and Franco Girolami, who run P4, 5 and 6 in Pirelli, both have 3 track limit warnings, so they need to be very careful. There, once again, is our AM leader, Hendrik Viol, and again, Dylan Medler with a different line. It's on the inside, but Hendrik Viol knows that he has more momentum, stays around. Overall, great to see that Pirelli and the Pirelli AM drivers mixing it up. No respect from the M drivers for the Pirelli, not just waving them past, but holding their own and actually overtaking on the track.
And there's a reason why Hendrik Viol wants to keep in that position, and that is protecting him from everything that's going on behind. But of course, at the moment, he's got the advantage of Dylan Medler between himself and David Gosner. And we'll look here as Michael Verhagen on the inside of Marco Zanassi. He took that lesson out of the playbook of Jasin Ferati, I would suggest to you, hugging the inside. And right now we've got some time penalties to tell you about for car number 80. He picks up a time penalty, and that is for Angelo Fontana for going over the track limits warnings time. And right now, under pressure, is this number 26 car that is driven by Björn Grossman from Franco Girolami, who's right behind him.
Yeah, and Jasin Ferati just went past Björn Grossman, so he continues his move, and from P last, he's up into P6 overall, P4 in class, and Franco Girolami also gets past Björn Grossman. Björn is a feisty racer, but just doesn't feel like he's got the full pace in the car. And as you said, Michael Verhagen has gotten past Marco Zanassi, and now behind Björn Grossman, a little bit of a cork in the bottle means that these two Pirelli AM drivers will be on him both. And
Zanassi trying to come back on Michael Verhagen now down the inside. That was, and here comes Verhagen trying to get the switch back here. They're side by side. Verhagen is off the track, I would say. But that was perhaps to avoid a collision. Zanassi is not taking this lying down. It's a bigger battle, in my opinion, than the battle that's going on ahead of them between Björn Grossman and Girolami, because this is something special, isn't it, in the AM drivers, Marco Zanassi and Michael Verhagen, who are fighting over this P3 position, the final podium place for our AM drivers. And wow, past the speed camera we come, and Christmas, we've only got 4 minutes of this race left, plus 1 lap.
Absolutely.
How did Michael get that slowed down going into turn number 1? The back end was sliding, and Marco Zanassi, well, he got overtaken, but he wasn't going to stay overtaken. Dylan Medler and Hendrik Viol for lap after lap after lap. Dylan has tried everything in the book to get by Hendrik Viol, but has been denied.
Yeah, 3.5 minutes remaining. Dylan Medler will now have been told by his team that actually Jasin Ferati is coming calling. He's only 3.5 seconds behind you, and there in the back of the shot you can already see the car. So 3.5 minutes plus a lap is a podium in reach for Jasin Ferati. That would be a drive and a half. This is going to come to a head in the very final stages of this race.
It would be an extraordinary comeback from a guy that got relegated to the very, very back of the grid. He is now potentially within sight of a podium. it would be the comeback drive of all comeback drives, I would say. Hendrik Viol continues in his B1 position and is undaunted by Dylan Medler and has been undaunted and furthermore unovertaken by Dylan Medler for lap after lap after lap. Hendrik Viol in his own race, he is the Pirelli Am leader. David Gosner is not, it's not impossible for David Gosner to reach him, but with the cushion of Dylan Medler, it's playing nicely into the hands of Hendrik Viol. David Akabadze is going to pick up a time penalty for track limits. So Hendrik Viol we're right on board with right now. Under braking, there is Claudia, his partner, looking on. Just watching every moment. It must be a really anxious time to see your better half out there doing a brilliant job as Hendrik is doing.
Yeah, Marcus Renard has overtaken Björn Grossman, so he put that car between himself and Michael Verhagen as a cushion. And that means that battle for P3 in the AMS has at least taken a pause for the moment.
Jasin Ferati now closer to David Gosner. He's got to get by David Gosner. He's running out of time here, Nico, to get on terms with Dylan Medler for a potential podium. There's Claudia once again. As I mentioned, Hendrik Viol's wife, who is looking on, loving this racing. Hendrik Viol is such a good racing driver. He was the bridesmaid last year in the championship. He battled all year long with Klaus Branson. In the end, it would be Klaus Branson that takes the championship. I don't want to jinx anything. We'll see how it goes for 2025. But Hendrik Viol is en route for a potential win here in Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli Am. He's been chased the entire race virtually by Dylan Medler. Dylan Medler, who is running P3 for Trofeo Pirelli. He knows that Jasin Ferati is not far behind, but I think he's far enough behind for a minute plus one lap is all we've got left. So, in my opinion, let's see when they cross the timing line. I think...
yeah, Felix Herziger just did, so it means 2 more laps once these drivers complete the lap that they're currently on, and this is exactly now. So 2 more laps from now is all that's left. The gap between Medler and Ferrati is, well, 8/10. So it could come down to the final lap.
Oh, as Jasin Ferati dives to the inside of David Gosner. David Gosner tries to come back here. And very, very unusually, David Gosner said, "I'm not having that, friend, bosh." And he takes that position back. Now, also very unusually is the time penalty has been rescinded, and that was for Angelo Fontana. So for the second time this weekend, we see a penalty deleted for a track limit. So there we are, nothing but fair, that's for sure, race control. So Jasin Ferati got to do it all over again and get by David Gosner before he can get to David Medler. I would, Dylan Medler rather, I would suggest that David Gosner is on Dylan Medler's Christmas card list right now because he is protecting him from Jasin Ferati. So here's Felix Herziger, who's 7 seconds up the road from Gilles Remons. Gilles then, who led the race but was deemed to have taken the lead by going off the track. He had to give his race lead back and the place back to Felix Herziger. And Felix Herziger then, after a torrid time of it, relatively, in Valencia, getting his winning order back on terms now as he crosses the timing line to start the final lap of this Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli Am race. So it's going to be a last lap dash from Jasin Ferati, and I rather think that it might be just too much to ask. I mean, it would be a fairy tale, wouldn't it, for Jasin Ferati from the very, very back of the pack to get a podium out of this race in competition with 24 other cars, 23 other cars. It would be magnificent. He's not diving to the inside this time of David Gosner. Meantime, still plenty of other things going on here. Michael Verhagen and Andrew Morrow fighting over the P4 place for Trofeo Pirelli Am. There is Nobuhiro Imada and Danilo Del Favaro. They are P6 and P7. And this is Michael Verhagen and Andrew Morrow then, as I mentioned just a few moments ago. Morrow trying to find a way past Verhagen. Is he going to try and get a slingshot here and get to the inside of Michael Verhagen? He gets very close. They do go side by side. And Andrew Morrow, if this works, it will be a great overtake, and it was. He just set that up perfectly, and Andrew Morrow goes through to pick up a P4 in class for Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli Am. No mistaking the dominance, though, of Felix Herziger once again when he gets his nose in front. He is very, very difficult to unshake from that P1 position. So Felix Herziger for Nico Reparto Corsa Ram has got 2 turns to do before he will see the checkered flag, and he will take another win in Ferrari Challengers. Felix Herziger wins in Barcelona. The team celebrate with him on the pit wall. Gilles Renmans should take P2. Sure enough, there is Gilles. Just look at the pace deficit to Felix Herziger. Meantime, here's Hendrik Viol to win for Scuderia Pra, and Dylan Medler takes P3. Then it's David Gosney, then it's Jasin Ferati, Franco Girolami, Marco Sanassi. Then it will be Andrew Morrow and Michael Verhagen. Wow, that was a race of many, many things happening. And really impressive was the fact that there were so many Pirelli and Pirelli Am drivers all mixed up together.
Yeah, the Scuderia Pra team very happy, as you can tell. Congratulations being radioed into the car of Hendrik Viol. Yeah, Henry Laskovsky gets his time penalty back, which had been rescinded. Now, he did run afoul of the track limit once more, and that means it is a track limit.
Angelo Fontana.
Angelo Fontana. And but doesn't change the order at the very front. As you say, I think the fact that the AMs and the Pirelli drivers really mixing it up, and you could see some of the drivers at the end of the race really suffering with tires, Björn Grossman being one of them, Michael Verhagen also in the dying stages of the race, really, really suffering with tire degradation, and others who had maybe in qualifying or in the race earlier been a little bit more conservative, reaping the benefits in the closing stages.
The drive of the day, surely has got to go to Jasin Ferati. From the very, very back of the pack to P4 in class, that's a heck of a drive.
Yeah, absolutely. It won't show up as dominantly on the... and wait a second, we've just been advised that a 4th track limit penalty or warning has been issued for Jasin Ferati. It shows up on our timing screen, and that could drop him. Will that drop him down the order? It would drop him behind Franco Girolami, if I'm not mistaken. Let's wait for formal confirmation, but that just coming in. Or, well, actually, Franco Girolami also picks up a 4th track limit
so it would nullify it.
So it evens itself out, because Björn Grossman is too far behind to benefit from it. So it changes the order probably in terms of outright positions, but not in class. No discounting anyway. Felix Herziger, double race winner in Barcelona.
And I think it's fair to say that if you'd have said to Felix, you're going to take 2 wins in Barcelona, he wouldn't necessarily have believed you.
He's a race driver. I think you would always believe that he's number 1. But yeah, the indications after Valencia certainly would have led you to think that, especially with 2 quickest times in qualifying for Jasin Ferati, he would be in pole position, quite literally, for a race win. Now, things for today certainly changed already after qualifying, but I mean, the camaraderie here.
Yes, lots of that. Hendrik Viol and Marco Sanassi, despite the fact they're arch enemies in terms of championship points, they're really, really good friends. And it's nice when they're uber competitive, but uber respectful and friendly off the track. Here is confirmation of the classification. Felix Herziger ahead of Gilles Renmans. Then it was Hendrik Viol and Dylan Medler. David Gosner, Franco Girolami, Marco Sanassi and Jasin Ferati.
And that sequence is still being updated with the penalties being applied.
Andrew Morrow, Michael Verhagen, then Björn Grossman, Nobuhiro Imada, Danilo Del Favro, Herbert Geiss and Otto Blank occupy the next part of the screen. Ahead of Angelo Fontana, David Akabadze, Hanno Laskovsky, Martin Havas, Armin Arifport, Rafael Duran and Max Mugelli. And then Vincenzo Scarpetta and Quinn Wiedlisbach both with not classifieds. There was a lot going on in that race. Super slow-mo then of our race-winning car for the Ineco Reparto Corsa Ram team, Felix Herziger. So great job done by Felix Herziger, who initially lost out to Gilles Renmans, but Gilles had to yield and give the position back to Felix Herziger. And once Felix Herziger had got his nose in front, there was absolutely no letting go. So stand by, here comes the interview with Ludovica and Felix Herziger.
Wow, Felix, congratulations. You conquered Barcelona and Montmeló. And as Giorgio Sanaggiotto said in this afternoon, you needed to push today, and you made it. It was a very clear race for you in a hot temperature and in a very technical track.
Yeah, I mean, when we arrived on Thursday, it didn't look like we were going to be on the top. Of course, we aimed for it, and we worked Thursday, Friday, Saturday morning. And then all of a sudden it may click, and we got justice also for what happened with the other car that was in pole position. And from that point on, Giorgio and I were very clear. We are safe, we want to make most points possible. And I can't thank them enough for the car, for the partners, Miki, Simone, my partner, Diana, my friends at home, my mother, everybody that supports this is incredible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ciao, ciao.
Very emotional, Felix. Many congratulations to you. Well, we're going to be hearing from Hendrik Viol as well. What a great job he did in Pirelli AMS, and he's really putting himself into a very good position in terms of the Pirelli AM Drivers' Championship. As Felix Herziger said, he really didn't expect these results this weekend, but the team have dug deep, he's dug deep, and they've achieved. I suspect for Hendrik Viol, he'll have an altogether different viewpoint in terms of the race, and, well, he's maximised his points all out of Barcelona. Let's hear from him.
Hendrik, congratulations to win in a row here in Barcelona. Very important points for the championship. Was a very tough race. You made and ended this race third overall, and you was in the middle of bagarre between Felix and Gilles. But I want to discover with you your race and your feeling to be here.
The feeling is unbelievable. I mean, 2 times the win in Barcelona. Couldn't be happier. I think it was my hardest race probably yet. You know, to be in the sandwich between the pros. Was hard to keep Dylan behind me. Yeah, just unbelievable race, unbelievable weekend. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thanks and well done, Hendrik Viol. Great job done. Here are the highlights of Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli. Race 2 from Barcelona. Cars head downhill towards turn number 1, which has proven to be something of a funnel here. And with some 24 cars, inevitably some of the cars would run a tad wide, some a tad wider than others, including Gilles Renmans, who seemingly got something of an advantage and put himself in the lead of the race, ahead of Felix Herziger. Now, Jasin Ferati at the beginning of the race had been sent to the back of the grid, in fact, before the race even got underway for a very technical reason. And Quinn Wiedlisbach finding the wall, unfortunately, which didn't forgive. So Jasin Ferati was always going to be on a charge right from the back of the pack. Now, Gilles Renmans had to give the place back, the race lead back to Felix Herziger. And once Felix Herziger had got his nose in front, then he was up the road. This was then a scary moment, as that was a bold and ambitious move, and there was lots of bold and ambitious moves from Jasin Ferati as he continued his quest to get as far up the order as he possibly can from his disadvantaged start. You can see drivers here trying to control slides as they were turned around, and Haller Zskowski was one of them. He had a bit of an assist into that, I think. You could see that the tension inside the garages was always almost as great as it was in the cockpit of the 296 Challenge cars. Andrew Morrow and Michael Verhagen were having a brilliant battle in Trofeo Pirelli AM for P4, but for Felix Herziger, well, he was able to win by a margin of some 10 seconds over Gilles Renmans for Trofeo Pirelli. And for Pirelli AM drivers, it would be Hendrik Viol that would take victory, and that was to the delight of his wife and also to the team Scuderia Prague. There are the race statistics. Make of those what you will. Best progress came from Jasin Ferati, who made some 17 overtakes, which is to be expected, I guess, because he was really, really going for it right from the start of the race. He kind of had to be honest. And he did it, and did it very, very well. So he'll be pleased with that. We'll be going up to the podium momentarily, of course, and 2 podiums, double the fun here in Barcelona. 1 podium for Trofeo Pirelli and 1 podium for Trofeo Pirelli Am. Here's Michele Mambelli bringing the drivers out. 8-foot-tall Dylan Medler takes to the podium. He doesn't need a step. Here comes Gilles Remans, then a P2. And Felix Herziger, he will be on the top step of the podium. And of course the team, Ineco, Reparto, Corsa, Ram will be represented as well because they'll be receiving the Copa Team Award. So Felix was very emotional during his interview. And here comes the anthem. I think the man with the mixer has got in a bit of a muddle. Many regards. Could have been stuck with Earth, Wind and Fire there. Would have been no bad thing, would it? Right. Whilst the national anthem is very attractive, Dylan Medler receives his P3 trophy. Well done to Dylan, all the way here from Miami. P2 for Gilles Remans. Pere Rodriguez, the mayor of Montmello's Town Hall, making the trophy presentations, and here comes the big trophy, the P1 trophy for Felix Herziger. Copa Team Award goes to Ineco, Reparto, Corsa, Ram. Nice to see the Pirelli trophy, and it's Matteo Corradino making the trophy presentation from Pirelli, our tyre partners to Felix Herziger. Double bubble in terms of the trophies that he receives. Everyone gets together for the photographs then. And then it will be the race for the champagne and who will win the bubbly battle. So great smiles all around there. Right, who's going to win the champagne here? Stay with us, please. Michele, always polite. Please leave the podium before you get soaked. Felix Herziger is winning this, yeah, by a country mile. And now we can hear. Awesome song. The collection. Dylan Medler takes P3 for the collection. Miami. P2 for Francorchamps Motors Brussels and Gilles Remans. And for the Ineco Reparto Corsa Ram team, of course, Felix Herziger. We'll bring you the result. Here it is for the race overall. Felix Herziger, Gilles Remans and Dylan Medler, they are the top 3 in Trofeo Pirelli, the top 3 in Pirelli Am. Hendrik Viol, David Gosner, Marco Zanassi. Now Jasin Ferati finishes P7, Franco Girolami behind. Then Andrew Morrow, Michael Verhagen, Björn Grossman, Nobuhiro Amada, Danilo Del Favaro, Herbert Geis, Otto Blank. Ahead of Angelo Fontana, Hanno Laskowski, David Akabadzi, Martin Havas, Armin Arifpour, Rafael Duran, Max Mugelli, Vincenzo Scarpetta and Quinn Wiedlersbach not classified. Drivers' Championship, critical that we look at the points order right now as Felix Herziger now goes back to the top of the points with 11 points clear of Jasin Ferati. Vincenzo Scarpetta is P3. Gilles Remens is P4, having moved up a place over Max Mugelli in terms of the Drivers' Championship points. There we have it. Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli Drivers' Championship and podium done and dusted. The AM podium still to come.